Hey everyone, and welcome to the Tom's Hardware Podcast for August 24th, 2021. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief, Avram Pelch, and I am joined by Raspberry Pi expert Ash Puckett and Associate Editor Les Pounder. And today's very special guest, we're so excited to have Geeky Ali from Geeky Fay Art on to show their new project and all of the cool projects, talk about some of the other cool projects that they do. So, Ali, can you tell everyone about what you do? Just for the few people who might not be familiar with your amazing YouTube channel.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm definitely going to assume that not everyone already knows about me. So in case you don't, hi, I'm Ali, aka Geeky Fay. Many of you know me as Geeky Fay online of Geeky Fay Art. And I love the question, what do you do? Because I almost feel like the better question might be, what do I not do? Because I do a little bit of everything. Obviously, I am a maker. I am an artist. I am a designer. I am a content creator. I am a online weirdo doing crazy stuff in front of a camera for a YouTube channel. I'm just doing everything I can possibly set my mind to, which recently included electronics. Because as of, I think, 2 months ago, I'm going to say June, I had never done anything to do with electronics, even a little bit. I knew actually nothing. Like I knew what electronics were. I knew what Raspberry Pi was because I have Raspberry Pis for my 3D printers. But other than that, like I had never, I couldn't tell you what a resistor was. I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. And now I have basically the makings of a tiny robot friend, a little bit like this, but he's going to be a lot bigger. I am making a BMO to control my 3D printer. So I have aptly named it Octoprint because that's basically what it's going to be. It's also obviously not done yet, but the first part of the build is live on YouTube, and you can watch it and kind of see me learn and kind of figure out the process of setting up a display, connecting speakers through a stereo bonnet, and even designing a PCB. Because, I mean, why would I possibly do anything by halves, which I feel like maybe that's what I'm known for, is just being incredibly extra in everything I do in every single way. So, of course, for my first proper electronics project, I went right into the deep end and designed a custom PCB. In fact, actually, I definitely was going to say, where did they go?
That's the best way to learn.
See, that's it, isn't it? That is actually how I learn. That is how I learn. I am very much a jump in, get your hands dirty, try a thing with some help, of course. Like I didn't just guess. I didn't just open up KiCad and guess, or KiCad. I'm actually not sure how it's pronounced.
I think KiCad.
Is it KiCad?
I think.
My apologies. KiCad.
I say KiCad. Oh, yeah.
I did not just jump into KiCad and guess. I did have I had some help, but it was just kind of one of those like, I mean, no people. But, yep. I must admit that I swear I had them sitting right here and they've like run away. Where did my PCBs, my extra PCBs go? Oh, there they are. I just moved the size. I am smart. I can show a non-attached one. I was gonna say, see if it's actually
very nice.
Yeah, it's not like the most complex thing in the world. It's basically 7 buttons, set up to be pull up, pull up, pull up. I always get these mixed up. I'm pretty certain I have them set to be pull-up resistor, like
Yeah.
with pull-up resistors, because I've got the slots for the resistors. And then obviously it's got tiny little Octoprint on there and my logo, because how can you not get into the artistic side of PCB design when you're an artist doing a PCB? Like that was probably the first thing that I was very keen to do. It was like setting up the electrical schematics. I was like, this is all right. This is kind of interesting. And then it was like, oh, okay, now I can put in the art. Now I can start doing the artistic stuff. Now I'm in. Now I'm invested. But I'm just really, this is very satisfying.
It is. You can see BMO in it, in the layout.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, like obviously this is the BMO button board, and I'm sure other people have done them. But I wanted mine big. Like I feel like most people's BMOs are of a more manageable size. I wanted big BMO. I really though, I wanted to be able to use that touch screen, that really nice 7-inch touchscreen display. That's basically what ended up determining the size of BMO.
So for folks who aren't totally familiar with everything they can do with Octoprint, what is this going to do? What is this going to do once you have it set up?
I'm thrilled to be able to talk about Octoprint. So Octoprint is the brainchild of a wonderful German woman named Gina Hauske, and she's basically created this entire thing from scratch. It is an image that runs on, it's a server basically that runs on a Raspberry Pi. It does require a rather high-powered Pi, though I know people have run them on earlier versions, but for the most part, it's recommended like you want a 3 and up, I believe. But what it does is it provides an entire remote interface for your 3D printer. And so you can then control prints from anywhere with a web browser, which is pretty incredible. So the Pi will sit with your printer. It will be connected, hardwired in, or not hard, I say hardwired, it's plugged into the USB, basically. And then long as it's online, long as the Pi's online, you can talk to your 3D printer from anywhere. At this point, there's tons of plugins and other bits of functionality that other people have added in over the years, because it's obviously all open source. And so it's not just remote talking to your 3D printer. It's remote talking to your 3D printer and being able to observe it through a camera, and being able to do time lapses, and being able to detect if there's a problem with the print and have the print shut down if there's a failure. You know, it's so many things now. It's basically, I can't imagine actually 3D printing without Octoprint. I know there are other options that exist, but Octoprint has been so stellar that I can't imagine doing anything else. Basically.
Do you have a favorite Octoprint plugin so far?
Yes, actually, it's one of those that it's not very flashy and showy, but it is basically a lifesaver, and it's called Cancel Object.
Yes.
Because if you're printing a bunch of things and one of them fails, having to cancel the whole print is just like, oh no. But just with Cancel Object, it's just like, oh no, just that one. Boop. All right, turn that one off. Everything else can continue.
That is very useful. That's a filament saver.
Yes, and also like saves you from pulling out your hair.
Yeah.
Because it is so useful. So yeah, that is definitely one of my favorites. I'm actually still exploring the plugins, but this project has allowed me to do a little bit of additional exploring, because there is plugins that basically allow you to hook up external physical buttons to control stuff. So that's actually one of the things. The big buttons, as I call them, which I love these tactile switches, are just fantastic. They're so clicky. They're so nice.
Yeah.
They're so nice to push. So the big buttons are going to be printer buttons. They will control the printer directly. So I will be able to have direct control over the 3D printer from BMO. They'll do things like cancel print, start print, resume print, possibly preheat, or like there's a surprising amount of functionality, because I'm pretty certain that you can set the buttons to effectively just issue a G-code command. So you could, if you wanted, have a button to change filament, issue an M600. I haven't yet fully decided what the buttons are going to do just yet. Simply that these buttons, they will be the Octoprint buttons. The little buttons, the D-pad, they're going to have a different function. It's going to be a more fun function.
Oh, that's awesome. Any ideas what the fun function will be? Will it be something on the screen?
Yes, it's going to be bringing BMO to life, basically. I'm actually really excited. I'm going to be working with a really lovely artist and animator who's going to be making me some custom BMO facial animations.
Oh, I was hoping you'd go that route.
Oh.
That's awesome.
I honestly, like, I hadn't necessarily intended on going custom initially. But I knew I really wanted, I want BMO to be, you know, alive. You know, I want BMO to be able to talk to me, and as much as I could have gone so much further with this, you know, with voice activation and stuff like that. Remember, 2 months. 2 months of electronics experience. I'm not quite there yet. So I was honestly, speakers felt like an immense hurdle, like to overcome, and I did it. And I was gonna say, and if you actually watch the video, you can 100% see me fail tremendously to get the speakers to work before getting them to work.
You have to learn how not to do it, right? I mean,
in my defense, I actually did everything right, but the script for it has not been updated in like at least 3 versions of Raspbian. So there was a single line of the script that conflicted. What is it? Is it Buster right now? Is the current build of Raspbian?
Debian Busty, yes.
So yeah, there was a single line in the script that conflicted, and it just basically had to be turned off. It had to be told no, and that fixed everything. It literally went from no sound, no response to sound, and I was like, oh, all right, sure. It took me days to find that, but I did in the end. It was fine. Oh dear. The Raspberry Pis are so powerful. That's actually one thing that continues to blow my mind a bit, is how it is a full, with the screen and a keyboard, it is just a computer. It's just a full computer. Like, that's how insanely powerful it is, which is part of the reason why I feel very confident just like having it can run Octoprint, it can play videos at the touch of a button. Like, I'm not that concerned, especially since this is the 8 gig of RAM.
Yeah, 8 gig is a lot. How many?
I didn't want to run into performance. I didn't want BMO to have performance anxiety. That would have sucked.
So how many Raspberry Pis do you have now?
3. I have 3 Raspberry Pis. I have. So at the moment, I have 1 that controls my Prusa. Just like, that's it. That's all it does. It's actually the one in the thumbnail for the video was my first ever Raspberry Pi, in a really nice Pimeroni case, which is actually the one of the sponsors for this project, who has been incredibly helpful in getting me kitted out, because I didn't have any stuff. I didn't have any of this stuff before, like no soldering irons, no wires, no wire strippers. I didn't have any of it because I didn't need it, and all of a sudden I needed it.
Yeah, so, it stacks up, right?
Yes, it does.
And I'm not as good at putting it away as you are.
Well, this is a more recent development, and is 100% inspired by Billy Rubin, who has the most wonderful write-up on how to reorganize your space if you were a maker with ADHD, which I am. So I had always struggled to kind of figure out how to sort things and where to put things. And then I literally just read this thing she'd written up and I was like, oh, okay. Actually, this all makes perfect sense now, because a lot of the stuff that I feel like we're taught maybe as kids about how to keep a tidy space is not for people who think like me. So it turns out that having everything kind of on display, it's organized chaos basically, way better than having everything tidied away into like neat little drawers and cubbies where you can't see it. Because once I can't see it, it doesn't exist. So I forget I own it. So if it's all,
that's really good. That's really good advice, and
it's really helpful actually.
That's really good advice, and I have to keep that in mind. And my son, who's 9, who we keep trying to get to clean up stuff, has to keep that in mind. So that actually is really good advice, because out of sight can be out of mind.
Yeah, it's always been a real problem for me, in the sense that I'm not just a maker. I am a maker who does a little bit of everything. So I have a lot of stuff, like not necessarily in like a sheer quantity sense, because like what you can't appreciate is how small this room is. I'm in the UK and I'm in London. So like this is effectively the size of a large closet in the US. It's not a large room. I fake it very well on camera, but it's less of an immense sheer quantity and more of it's just a wide array of stuff. Like I'm just kind of like, I'm looking around a little bit, and like obviously I've got like some of my electronic stuff on top, but then like further down I have, pastels, because I'm a fine artist too, and I have at least 13 different art mediums in various places in this room. There's also right next to it, I'm not going to pull it out because it would be a pain, is like my sewing box, because I sew, because I'm a cosplayer. And so like there's that. The sewing machine is tucked underneath.
Part haberdashery.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I'm trying to think like what other potentially weird things. Obviously I have my model paints and my markers and my camera equipment.
I've got a question. If you're into cosplay and you've been playing with the Pi, have you played with the Pico yet?
Not yet. I have yet to combine electronics and cosplay, but well, it's funny because I do already have some plans.
Good.
And I don't know if it was the Pico necessarily that I had in mind, but now that you said it, I'm kind of like, that sounds like I'm willing to give it a go. It won't require a Pi. It won't require a whole Pi.
Right.
It's not going to be that complex.
As we've covered on this show before, there's such a wide range of RP2040 boards that you could use. And I actually was going to show later a funny you should mention cosplay project that I'm working on with an RP2040 board. But you can get them in a lot of small sizes. So for fitting into clothing, something like a tiny QT, or a cutie pie, or a Pimoroni tiny.
How big are we talking?
I have one in a drawer somewhere.
Potentially. I'm not trying to make rude gestures.
No.
Oh, look at the box! Look at the box! Box of stuff.
Let's see. I got so much stuff in here.
Les, you're muted.
Exciting.
Oh no! Yeah, no, you are muted.
Exciting looks through my drawers, but somewhere Les will probably. There you go.
Oh, it's so small.
That's a cutie pie.
That's adorable. Admittedly, the thing that I have planned does not necessarily require small. It'll probably be about this big.
Right. So.
Okay.
Because I don't know how to do small things.
The one challenge that you might have is if you need wireless in it, right? It needs to be wireless.
About wireless. Yes.
So here what we have. This could be interesting for a lot of people in our audience. Here's something we've shown before, which is the Arduino RP2040 Connect. So this is using Raspberry Pi Silicon, but it's made by Arduino, and it's about $25, and it has a built-in Wi-Fi and BLE, so you could potentially control it. For example, one thing that you can do that I have done with these is that you can basically create a, what would you call it, Les? You can basically create a web server with them, so you could go on your phone or any computer, go to a web page that lives on here, right? And then that web page can be your UI. So like what my son and I did, which is now in various pieces of disrepair, is we had this robot that we made, right? And this has a Pico, it has a motor driver here, and it has a Wi-Fi Wi-Fi card from Adafruit, and this was running on Wi-Fi, so we put it on the network, and then what you're able to do is, what he was able to do is just go onto his tablet or his phone. We drew just like up, down, right, left links on a web page that was living on here, and then he could use that to remote control it. Now, the part that we couldn't quite get to work yet was camera, because it's a little bit hard to use cameras with the Pico. You can, but it's not a. I have had difficulty getting it to work. But as far as using it for remote controller for lighting, the other thing on here, and I'll show a little bit later, something I have working, is that this has NeoPixel lights. So you can make NeoPixel. You can very easily control a lot of NeoPixel lights with
that. Actually, is convenient, because that is exactly what I have in mind. I was gonna say I might just have to share it. Though I will say that before I do, I will answer the question about the dress. I did not design the dress. I wish I had. This is a lovely dress. It's a circatry dress by Cakes with Faces. I got a little tongue tied there. Cakes with Faces is the shop, and I believe they're actually also based here in the UK, which is convenient because so often cool things are based in the US and I have to get them shipped overseas, and it's very expensive. This wasn't, and it actually just arrived like
not when it comes to maker electronics, it seems, because all the cool Raspberry Pi stuff comes to the UK.
Like the one thing
you have to live in a city if you want a micro center.
Yeah. Right, I'm gonna see if I'm gonna be rude for a second and realize that I'm slightly tangled. I'm so tangled because I want to grab a thing. So I'm going to be cheeky. I always try to be secretive about stuff, and I fail because I love talking about stuff. So I am working on a costume at the moment, kind of in the background of doing other things, because that's also I was gonna say I feel like it's the whole like say you're a maker with ADHD without saying you're a maker with ADHD, and it said I have 16 projects going on simultaneously. One of them is a Clara cosplay from Pokemon Sword, and so if you are a Pokemon Sword or Shield fan, you'll probably recognize this, which is the Dynamax bracelet. Now, at the moment, this is just fully 3D printed. It's cool, but it's nothing particularly special. And like, it definitely looks nice, though. Like, I'm quite pleased with that. But I started having some dreams of grandeur, shall we say. And I started wondering what I might be able to do if I were to take the fake screen bit and turn it into something that's a bit more like a real screen. I know there are some flexible screens out there, but the problem is this isn't very big. I don't know how much electronics I could actually fit into this, but what I potentially have in mind, and a part that I definitely know I can do, is I want to make a full-size Dynamax Pokeball. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this particular Pokemon game, because there is, 82 of them at this point.
Oh, but that's such a great game. Those are such great games. My son and I played them. The Sword and Shield.
I like to joke occasionally, and by joke I mean harass young people. When I so basically Pokemon has come back in vogue, and so there is now a new generation of people playing Pokemon who are 18, 19, 20, and I like to occasionally tease and basically be like, yeah, I've been playing Pokemon longer than you've been alive.
They make fun of us. They make fun of us for liking first and second gen Pokemon. They're like, Charizard who?
This is my childhood. This is my childhood first generation Pokemon. Like, because that's it. Like, I played the card game when it first came out, like 1,000 years ago. And then, of course, like Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow, like
the only color in Pokemon was on the cartridge.
Yeah, exactly. So that is me. I am the Pokemon. I am the old man of Pokemon. I'm okay with this, actually, mostly because like people, first of all, they don't tend to know how old I am, so I like to mess with their heads a little bit. But also because it is cool again. Pokemon is super cool again, and it's like, oh, all of the stuff I liked as a child and got teased for is cool now. So it's a little like mind blowing to me. I've always been a huge nerd. It's not new. This is just it.
Nobody here has ever experienced that.
No, nobody has any idea what I'm talking
about. We have no idea what you're talking about.
But yeah, so for people who haven't played Pokemon Sword and Shield, there is a new thing which is called Dynamaxing, where you get these Pokemon that are basically the size of a 3-story building. And to catch the large and in charge Pokemon, you need a extra big ball. And so there's this beautiful sequence in the game that always just made me quite excited, where your character picks up a regular sized Pokeball, and the Dynamax bracelet flashes, and the ball gets massive, and it kind of glows a little bit. So I am 100% going to make a light up Dynamax ball with oscillating neopixels lighting up the interior. Because that's it. It kind of does a little rainbow wave sort of thing. So goodness knows I'm going to need hundreds of neopixels to do this. And of course, while I'm at it, I'm probably also going to make it a handbag because it's huge. I might as well carry my stuff in it.
Ooh, a handbag that is also a Dynamax ball.
You need that at a con.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly it. I'm an old school con goer, and I'm very familiar with the problem that is nowhere to carry your stuff when you're in costume. So if I'm carrying around a giant plastic ball, I might as well be able to put my stuff in it. So I definitely reckon like setting up the Dynamax ball to do an oscillating pattern of lights is entirely doable. Like I even kind of have the design, because I'm going to obviously 3D print the ball. I've already kind of got the design for the ball kind of laid out in my head with kind of channels for the lights to fit into and stuff like that. That seems reasonable, I think. Yeah. What would be the bonus round is if I could somehow turn on the Dynamax ball from the bracelet. That would be the move, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know enough about this stuff yet to know how to do it.
I think BLE. I think you would create a BLE. So both of them would have to have BLE. You create a BLE connection between the two of them. Not really sure after that.
32 chips would be useful to look into.
Because like this is small. Like there's not a whole lot of room on it for stuff. But also, there are flexible
power is
screens,
an option.
Aren't there? There are flexible screens. So I could technically make this into a screen.
Yes, I think cool too. I think hiding the board and hiding the battery will be a challenge, but I'm sure you might be able to put it somewhere. If you could put it somewhere on the outside, or just slightly under the screen or something like that.
Yeah, no, admittedly, like at least at its current size, there's definitely a little bit of space. It's a bit big
Yeah.
on me. I have small wrists,
Right.
so I feel like I could probably hide some stuff on the
Now,
interior a bit.
if
Can
you
I
want to,
suggest something else?
Yeah. Please.
It's low tech, high tech.
I love low tech, high tech.
Whoa, hello, I'm zoomed in. Hello. 433 megahertz transmitter, and I've got one in my hand here. It does look like something from a B movie bad guy to blow up a building.
I love it.
But all it is just 4 buttons, and it sends a signal with the aerial. And you've got a little breakout board, which I'm not sure what the voltages are for it, if it's 3 or 5.
But that's nice and tiny. That's super tiny.
It's nice and tiny. Let's get a Pi 0 to put it as context for size. There you go. That's about the size. It's nice and tiny. They're very cheap as well. All it does, it receives a signal, and one of the pins that it's connected to will go high and then trigger. So you can use that to trigger the NeoPixels connected to whatever device you choose to connect it to. So come on.
See, that's it. Like, that's always the thing. Again, this is assuming some sort of future in which I feel able to go to cons again. Hasn't happened yet, but one day. That's it. You having that sort of thing somewhere with live human beings and being able to effectively have the because again, it would be cool to be able to actually integrate a flexible screen so that you could have the symbol flash, and then have the ball just come to life. People would lose their minds.
Yep.
You should also
I miss going to cons too. It's terrible.
You should also consider adding USB rechargeable functionality, because I've made some LED props, 3D printed some little crystals, and I had LEDs in, and they kind of glowed, but I didn't want it to die, and I didn't want to carry a bunch of batteries. But you can always find an outlet in the hallway somewhere to sit down and recharge your props.
That's the Galaxy Brain move right there. Making it, well, admittedly, and that is very much kind of one of those like considerations for this stuff. Like, I don't have to worry so much with BMO, because BMO is always going to be by the 3D printer, so it's just going to plug into the wall, the wall,
right?
Like not really a big deal. But if, say, I did want to take BMO to a con and have BMO not control my 3D printer, then power suddenly becomes a consideration. And admittedly, the Pi requires considerably more power than
that can be quite a challenge. So speaking of boards that people use, Les, you just wanted to show us you got a new Risk board.
I have indeed, yes. This way you get a close-up on my face again now. I'm sorry about this, everyone. So I've got a new RISC-V board. So I've got RISC-V gear on my desk already. So believe it or not, this soldering iron, a Pine-Sol, uses a RISC-V processor. And so does this Doctor Who themed board from Tinker. Let's try and get that in focus. It doesn't want to. Oh, well. There you go. There's the box. That's really cool. It's got Wi-Fi as well. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about this thing here. Now, I'm going to try and get the best shot possible for you all. I did have an elaborate camera angle set up, but it went wrong. This is a mini ITX size board with a RISC-V processor, and it is the thing here.
Cool.
Oh,
it's a quad-core RISC-V processor, 1.2 gig. 64-bit processor. I'm reading the spec sheet as I'm talking to you. It's got, believe it or not, 16 gig of DDR4. That's more than my PC. That's down to my left-hand side that I just retired.
Oh my gosh.
That's fantastic. There it is there. USB 3, Ethernet, micro SD cards, a GPIO down here, so you can do some GPIO stuff. From looking at it, it's I2C and SPI and a few bits and pieces of digital stuff. But also we've got, it's not coming out too well on camera, we've got a PCI Express port there.
I was wondering if that's what that was. It's a little
so
dark.
We can actually, there you go. So you can plug in a graphics card, a GPU. So this is a full PC to do RISC-V development. Now, admittedly, this is a development board. It's not something you're going to pick up just to embed like this RISC-V board and do something with. The reason why I'm saying that is because of the price. This is $680.
Oh, yes.
So I'm holding it carefully. But it's a full-blown PC RISC-V for development. I mean, you've got NVMe drive slots on there, so I can plug in hard drives and Wi-Fi cards and Bluetooth. And I can develop cool applications on RISC-V. So this is my plaything for a couple of weeks to see what I can do with it and understand how it all works.
That is so cool. I'm gonna admittedly show my newbie status here and ask. There was a circle in the top corner that looked a little bit like it would take a battery. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's a battery backup, probably for a real-time clock or a BIOS. I'm not too sure yet. I need to buy a power supply to test it. Use this piece.
Yeah, so that's I guess why I was a little confused, because it looked like a battery, and I was like, but that's not going to run on batteries. So what is it?
I need a lot of batteries to power this.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's something that the Raspberry Pi lacks, but you can get through a hat is real-time clock. And I think there's real-time clock stuff also for the Pico now. Is that correct?
Ooh.
Because everybody has that concern. Now that is something I had somewhat of a hard time explaining to my 9-year-old why you needed an RTC. We were talking about it. This is one of the things he asks me when he's going to bed at night, because he always finds a way to not go to bed at night. So he will, one night it was like, I have to learn about human cloning. Let's show me a video about it. So
I'm relating really hard to your 9-year-old right now.
He has ADHD. I should mention. Anyway, so one time he was just keeping me up, like, oh, why do we need a real-time clock if you can get the time over the internet, if you get the time from your network? And I explained to him, well, what if the network goes out? He's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's why you need it, as if your network goes out.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me.
But
I love how hard he's thinking to have questions like that.
Oh, I won't bore the audience with this, but I showed him the Matrix yesterday, and he poked like a million holes in the plot. Anyway,
I love that.
Anyway,
I genuinely love that.
Is it an antique cell phones by any chance?
No, I mean, I explained to him. He's just like, why can't they just unplug the people and they can just go out like in regular VR? Why don't they just take people and put them back in the pods? Like, I
think I'd get on really well with your kiddo.
He's been on the show a couple times.
Also 9. My God, like
he and I do a lot.
Brilliant.
He and I do a lot of projects together, which I'm going to show one in a second. But first, Ash, you were gonna talk about a new operating system you've been trying.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about IoT devices, which are basically, if you've not heard of IoT before, it stands for Internet of Things, and it refers to a network of stuff, literally just stuff. If you have a device that isn't used exactly as a computer, but it has an IP address to connect to the internet, it's an IoT device. So if you're automating things around your house with things like smart lights, or maybe you have doors, like the locks are automated, things like that, I wanted to find a way to a platform to kind of centralize the control for all of those things. So that's what I'm showing off today, is a special operating system for the Raspberry Pi that's made to host IoT devices and manage those things. And it's called WebThings. Let me switch my display over here. And this is the website. If you want to check it out yourself and get a copy of the image for your Pi, you can go to webthings.io. Setting it up is really easy. It's really straightforward. You flash the operating system to a micro SD card with Raspberry Pi Imager. And the first time it boots up, I thought this was kind of weird, but interesting. The first time it boots up, it'll create a Wi-Fi hotspot, and you have to use something like a mobile phone or something with Wi-Fi to connect to it, to get it connected to your Wi-Fi. But once it's on Wi-Fi, it has a web server that runs, and you can connect to it from your browser. And I've actually got it running on a Pi behind me, and I'm going to pull it up here.
I'm very curious about the disco ball.
Yeah, that was just an example on their website of some of the stuff it can control. But in real time, here's what it is right now. Like, it's actually on the Pi behind me. You can add things. Obviously, click here to add a device. I don't have any, but that's where you would go to add things. And once you do add things, it looks like this. And obviously, they have a disco ball. I'm sorry, Allie, I'm not sure how that works. I assume you can click it and it turns on and off. You've
I
got
mean,
motion sensors, dimmer
somebody's
switches, all kinds
clearly
of stuff.
created a disco ball that is on the Internet of Things. So
If it's got Wi-Fi, you can connect to it.
we gotta find it now.
Yeah, or not even Wi-Fi. As long as it's on the network, it could be, connected to the LAN. But yeah, that's pretty cool. It's called, like I said, it's called WebThings. Check it out. Install it on your Pi. What do you guys think? If you were to set this up, what would you want to control with it?
It's really clean. Like I definitely feel like as a designer, I have to comment on the UI because there's so many crap UIs out there. And so I'm very much sitting here appreciating how clean it is, how easy it looks like it is to use. And like somebody could just jump into this and be able to add their devices and get them set up and be running in very little time, which a lot of stuff is not that user friendly. So that alone has kind of impressed the heck out of me. I'm on board. I have no Internet of Things stuff. I'm weirdly low tech in that area. But if I did, I would 100% be like, yeah.
BMO, maybe BMO could be a thing.
That would be the next BMO upgrade, I think.
That is a thing. Another thing I think you would have a lot of fun with. I'm just spitballing here. Is this thing? Pulling stuff out of my drawer here.
I like that. Leaning into the.
Is this mag tag? So we have talked about this on the show once before. This is not technically a Raspberry Pi. This is from our friends at Adafruit, and it is this has Wi-Fi. You can program it with CircuitPython, and it is an e-ink display with lots of buttons lots of buttons and NeoPixels. It does have, you can use a battery with it. These are magnets, so you can attach it to something. You can 3D print. You can 3D print a case for it. You probably would 3D print a really nice one and figure out something better way to hang this. But you can do cool things with it. Having it show different things. You can use the buttons to make it show different things, or you can use its Wi-Fi connection to make it do things. My son and I have a long-going, again, abandoned yet project to make this show like which of his friends are on Minecraft at a given time. Which I have seen people do things like that, and or show like how much money is in his piggy bank or things like that. When you hit different buttons. Speaking of things that you can use, as we were talking about, here's something that uses a Raspberry Pi CPU. So this is a Adafruit Feather RP2040. It's one of many.
I was gonna say I've seen this before. People like this one. I see this a lot.
We really like the Adafruit Feather RP2040 because it's compatible with all the Feather, what they call wings, which are add-on boards, and there's a really big ecosystem of them. But it's also just it's a really nice board. But I mean, you can program any of these, any RP2040 board in CircuitPython, which is cool. So here I have
the little rings.
So here I have something that my son and I have been working on, which is a cosplay project that Adafruit has for people to do. So these are the two eyes, and it actually goes into this set of goggles.
Ooh. Oh, very good.
So you stick them and you glue them. The part I'm going to be really bad at is the gluing part. You glue them when you're done. You glue them in here, and then you're not really supposed to look through them because I guess it'll blind you. But you can put them on your head and use it as a kind of a steampunk thing. So what I have here, I'll just show really quick for anyone interested. The code for making this work. So, and you can see how, and Allie can see how easy it is too. So.
Yeah, no, I like seeing the code. Like, this is very much where I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn.
So okay, so here we have, first thing first I should say is that this is plugged into the two rings are connected to soldered together with wires, and there's three, because they're NeoPixels, there's really only 3 pins for each. There is data, there is power, and there is ground, and that is it, right? So here on my screen share, you can see I'm running Thonny, which is the one of the most popular IDEs for working in Python or CircuitPython or MicroPython. And all I've had to do is import 3 libraries: board, NeoPixel, and time. And I've created an array of the Roy G. Biv colors in RGB. And you have to create an object called pixels and assign it to whatever the pin is on the communication pin is on your board. In my case, it's pin D4, but it could be D1, 2, 3, whatever. And then you tell it the number of pixels that you have. In my case, 32, because I have 2 16-pixel rings. And what I've done here is I've just created a way of it iterating through the array. So I created a variable called color, and I assign it to color 0, which is I guess the red. And then I created a permanent while true loop where it just takes the current color, adds 1 to it, but if it gets to be above 6, it goes back to 0. And then I set it as another variable called this color, and I have it go through a range of 0 to 15 for the different pixels, because for each pixel, I'm going to assign both the pixel itself and then itself plus 16, which is the other circle, the same pixel on the other circle, and I'm going to assign them that color. Then I'm going to iterate that color. So I'm going to show all this, then I'm going to have it pause for 0.2 of a second and keep going. So the end result of that, let me show you what happens when I run it. The end result of it is is that?
Ooh.
So
That's sick.
Is that the colors appear to be moving because each 0.2 of a second, it just changes it and moves them. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that you could very easily do. You don't necessarily need an RP2040 chip to do it. You could do it with another device. I mean, there's like 200 devices that support CircuitPython. So here's somewhere under my keyboard. It's getting crushed. I have it. Here we go. A Trinket M0, which I think can also do it. Although I was trying last night, didn't quite work.
Oh my gosh, it's so small.
So
God, technology's crazy.
So definitely great for someone's cosplay, and it's just really, I'm really excited to see what projects you do with your cosplay, like the ball, because you just do really incredible work, and we thank you so much for joining us on the show today. What's the best place for folks to go to keep up with what you're doing?
Well, I am thankfully I'm Geeky Faye Art at Geeky Faye Art pretty much everywhere. I am probably most active on Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. I say that like I'm not exactly a YouTuber with a weekly video schedule at this point. I'm pretty happy to get something out monthly because it's a lot of work, it turns out, especially when you don't have a team of people to help you film and edit stuff. So my videos aren't the quickest, but I am very active on social media, and I love to hear from people. I love to see what people are up to. I also have a Patreon where I post exciting behind the scenes stuff. I actually say I just filmed my my monthly vlog that I share exclusively on Patreon today, and so that'll be going up tomorrow. So it's not too late if you want to get on to see that one. But I share a bunch of stuff. So like when I was still being very secretive about BMO, my patrons knew about BMO already, knew about BMO Octoprint because they get to know about stuff first. And there's a whole bunch of perks and stuff on there as well. I also have a Discord. There is a GFA Discord, and it's a small but growing community, and it's very, very chill and very inclusive, and everyone is welcome to join. Now, I am remembering that Ash was going to ask me about BMO's limbs. I don't know if we still have time.
Oh yeah, we can take that one question. What do you?
Okay.
What were you going to ask about the limbs?
Well, the question was will they move? And I think you were saying, Ash, that that you hadn't seen moving BMO limbs. I can actually say that I have seen one. Packrat1 on Twitter, Pack, out in Seattle, I believe, has a number of BMOs that are beautiful and like really well made, very kind of mechanical BMOs. And actually, I was gonna say he has one with little kicky legs and movie arms. I'm going to be taking a slightly different approach for my BMO. And instead of doing, so there will be no mechanical movement in BMO's limbs. However, I am going to make them posable. So I can, or whoever is making their own BMO can actually change the location of the arms and legs, can put BMO in a standing position and a sitting position. And the way I'm going to do this is going to be with flexible filament with a strong but flexible TPU. I'm currently looking at trying a Shure 90A TPU to create the flexible limbs. But what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to create them hollow so that I can insert armature wire into them. And then they will be able to hold the position and not just spring back whilst still being flexible, which is very much like old school dolls used to be, is basically armature wire and something flexible, whether that's fabric or some sort of kind of plasticine clay. I'm going to be taking that kind of concept and applying it to BMO's limbs so BMO can have flexible limbs. And I think the end result is going to be really cool.
Reminds me of ball jointed dolls. That's so cool.
So that's the plan. BMO will have flexible limbs, and I don't know if BMO is actually going to be able to stand. That's to be seen. That's a slightly different issue. But flexible limbs, and also I'm going to put magnets. I'm going to embed magnets in the hands.
Oh, cool!
So that BMO can actually hold their camera, because I've got a Pi. I think it's the high quality camera. And I'm going to design a little 3D printed case for that, so that preferably one that's very kind of like old fashioned style. And then I will embed magnets in the case, magnets in the hands, and then BMO can actually hold the camera.
That's awesome.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing.
So again, I haven't yet done this, so keep your fingers crossed.
Fantastic.
But I have, as I was kind of saying before, the electronics, that was the scary bit. The design and the 3D printing, I have a little bit more experience and confidence in. So it feels a little bit less frightening. But then, of course, I have to come back around again and program all the functionality in. So then it's going to be scary again. But I've been planning this project for months. And so I'm really, really, really excited to finally be doing it. It's also one of those things that I'm just like, I would like more hours in the day, please, because I would like to work on this.
I know. I think we all know the feeling. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Please come again and show us what you're working on.
Happily.
As always, we are here 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. UK time on Tuesdays, and you can watch our videos anytime on YouTube and Facebook. We will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.